So when a prospect comes to us, I think the path is we are asked for a statement of work. If they don't, or if you don't have a statement of work, statement of work basically means, a paragraph or two of what the problem is and how you identify or how you think the problem can be solved. Is it a third-party platform? Is it a patch? Is it an integration? Yeah. And then after the statement of work comes the scope. So, yes, Andy, in your experience, and we've done this so many times, what are some of the essential things when you go to the scope phase? Let's talk about what a scope is actually.
Yeah. So the scope is a phase where we go through the product, go through the, to the quote or to the, to a prospect, and we identify the pain points. So what's happening here? What is the issues that the client is having? And we find, we identify all of those pain points and we find a solution for them. So from the technical standpoint, how are we going to solve these issues? Yeah. And basically we determine, we scope all the project from top to bottom, every single issue, and how we're going to solve it.
Mm-hmm. And it's usually a long process. It's a long document, right?
Yeah.
It's usually the project, 10, 15, 20 pages.
And
we identify.
It needs to be extremely detailed.
Yeah.
It needs to be extremely detailed.
It needs to be. So give us 3 main things that you need to know to be able to manage the scope. Who writes the scope, by the way?
Usually we have a business analyst, which is the person that is capable of understanding the technical part and, as you mentioned, the operation part. So that person is the one that is responsible to communicate with the client, understand where is the problem, and find its technical solution for that. That's the business analyst. Usually after he has that, he meet with our developers, and when we discuss the technical part, and also we discuss about the timeline, the budget that we have for the project, and all those aspects.
So the business analyst does the scope, but for the business analyst to be able to write the scope, the business analyst needs to speak to the client, needs to speak to you. So I guess your title here would be the tech lead, correct?
Yeah.
You would be the tech lead. You're the guy who knows the code, the platform, and along with the business analyst, or you guide the business analyst to identify what platform we're going to use, what language, what coding structure we're going to use, what kind of methodology we're going to use, how many problems or issues do we have, how are we going to fix that from a functionality standpoint. The scope needs to have all of this. Now, once the scope is done, actually, before we go to the finalization of the scope, even before the scope, we've had certain instances. Somebody comes to us, they have an idea. Obviously, we can't do consultation for free. So, Joe, in your experience, when somebody comes, they have an idea. How do we take them from the idea phase or the problem phase to the end of the scope where we're going to start executing? This takes hours and hours and hours. We can't do it for free. What's the path there? What's realistic for people out there?
So I would say a realistic path, like you said, anytime you go to a consultant or you're paying for their time, you need to make sure that individual understands your business. So the first thing that we do is we ask as many questions as possible. We try to inject ourselves into their operation.
How much time can we spend as consultants? And again, our time is valuable. We do custom programming, we do custom stuff. We're very experienced in what we do, especially across different platforms. How much time can you spend without getting paid? 1 hour? Is that realistic?
Yes.
Maybe 1 hour.
I would say that 1 hour is primarily just back and forth communication.
Yeah. So for you to kind of identify what's going on. So most of the time, the issue with clients is we will talk to them for an hour or so, and then we realize we won't be able to, we have to dig deeper. We have to look at more information. We have to have continuous conversations with them. What do you say to a client when we need to spend more time on their project to be able to scope it out?
Anytime that you initiate a conversation with the client and you cannot figure out a solution or put together a scope of work or a statement of work within a short period of time, it is absolutely necessary to just set up a retainer. What that's going to allow you to do is focus more time and energy on figuring out the problem and the solution, whereas without that retainer, you're not going to find anybody that's going to work for you for free. So there are too many unknown variables at that point that you've already recognized, which is why you couldn't figure it out in a short period of time.
And the people who would, and this is my experience, and the people who would do it for free, they don't really know what they're doing.
Of course.
Why would anybody do anything for free If we're talking about a really, really complex solution to a complex business problem,
Exactly.
that includes multiple platforms, multiple warehouses, thousands of products.
And then on top of that, it's gonna require multiple resources, because again, I'm gonna need a tech lead, I'm gonna need a business analyst, I'm gonna need a lot of resources to be able to compile every piece of data that we need to get that detailed scope of work, so that there are no hiccups or bumps in the future. There's no changes in the scope of work. We didn't miss anything that we then had to go back to. That's why it's very important to take your time in the beginning, make sure that step by step your pain point and the solution, and everything is detailed.
And sometimes what happens is like we're talking about 50-60 hours of work, so we cannot do this for free. Sometimes depending on the complexity of the project, it might take a long time to get this scope out. Sometimes you're gonna say like it's worth it to you to spend that time. And the reason is yes, because after you have these, you already identify your problems and the solutions, so you can go to these to any technical team and they will be able to implement the solution for you without starting from scratch again and explaining your problem.
And would you say that it's safe to say anytime that you have a project that's going to exceed 100 hours for the actual execution, you're most likely going to need 15, 20, 30 hours for the scope. So the more the harder the project is, the more detailed the project is, the more time you're going to need to execute it, to strategize and put together your scope.
And it really helps a lot. So when you have a big project, more than 100 hours, or something that is solving this kind of issue with operations, you need to have a scope, because it happens very often that customer is going to change their mind, because probably in that first conversation he didn't bring up all the problems that he had, and then on the middle of the project he say, no, but I didn't mention this, and that will change the entire scope of the project and the entire way that we in the technical team we're building. Remember, we're creating something that needs to be ready to handle all the future requests that you're gonna have, and in order for us to build the right base, we need to have all the details up front.